As our economy has grown more global and more digital, businesses have had to shift their competitive strategies, marketing techniques, and business model. One of the most powerful changes? Yes, the rise of network effects. The question is, how developed is the infrastructure required to facilitate a digital ecosystem? Well, this could include bandwidth availability, quality of road necessary for e-commerce fulfillment, internet penetration, electricity supply, and etc. Do we have the tools and skills necessary to plug into the digital economy? What about the digital literacy of Ethiopian community? In the past years, the Ministry of Science and Higher Education has designed a national digital skills country action plan to improve employability in the digital work sphere over the coming decade in Ethiopia. The action plan comes as a part of the World Bank's initiative, Digital Economy for Africa, which is committed to provide technical assistance for policy formulation and institutional capacity building over the coming 10 years. Hello and welcome to Addis Media Network. I'm Babur Duang and I am here today at Ministry of Innovation and Technology with Dr. Abiut Bayu, who is General Director at Ministry of Innovation and Technology. And today we are going to be discussing about digital economy of Ethiopia, how it is being practiced and with who are we planning to conduct this digital economy in Ethiopia. So stay tuned and stay with us. Thank you, Doctor, for your time. First, let's start by introducing your name and what you do.
Thank you very much. I'm Abiut Bayu. I'm working at the Ministry of Innovation and Technology. I'm lead for the digital transformation program.
Well, thank you. So to start our discussion, since we talk about digital economy of Ethiopia, how can you define digital economy?
Okay, the digital economy can be defined as is an economy enabled by the internet and other the ICT infrastructures. It has three main components. The first one is the ICT infrastructure itself, that is including the telecom and other networks. And the other one is platforms that are working on top of this infrastructure and the interaction on these platforms that's made by the users. These are the three components that made the digital economy, and it's mainly, and most of its activities are based on interaction among economic actors on top of the digital infrastructure.
So here, can you differentiate the difference between digitalization and digitalization?
Actually, in digital economy, we are talking about digital transformations, and it's a digital transformation is a step. And the first activity will be in digital transformation is digitization. It is an activity of converting existing information resources to digital one. It's like of doing such as digitizing bookkeeping statements or digitizing certain documents of individuals and these things. So it's just digitization. When we talk about digitalization, we are focusing on processes, on digitizing the process itself. Like, for example, we'll have a financial system which the user perform various financial activities. Before digitizing the process, first we digitize the documents, then we digitalize the processes. So when this digitalization is done across different sectors, like if we digitalize finance, transport and other things, it becomes a digital transformation, which is a different thing, which is a very complicated thing, different from digitalization.
In 2021, there's a report that United Nations reported. It said that Ethiopia has about 120 million populations, and out of 120 million, 20.6% of them use internet connection, and the 79.4 has no access to internet connection. So here, what are being done to create a technology-enabled professionals as well as to build a digital literacy rate of the Ethiopian community?
Yeah. As you remember, like before 20 months ago, the government has published a digital transformation strategy. The main objective of this strategy were to digitalize Ethiopia. when you say digitalizing Ethiopia, means to improve the current infrastructure and also to create the necessary legal and regulatory environments, and also to develop various types of platforms and improving the digital ecosystems in Ethiopia. As you explained it, the internet penetration rate in Ethiopia is very low. It's around 25%. That means almost 75% of our society does not have access to the internet. So the government has taken various measures to change the situation. The first one is devising the communication law, which is focusing on liberalization of the telecom sector in Ethiopia. So that was the first measure. And also the government has defined various sectoral projects that are working on digitization. So in relation to how of creating professionals or creating the right skill for our citizens, we have various strategies, and the main strategy has 3 components. The first one is focusing on students that are currently in kindergarten and middle and high schools. The second one is focusing on higher level institution and technical and vocational institutions. And the third one is focusing on users that are out of job and out of school. So in these strategies, there are various actions developed to improve the situation and to train users that can serve the digital economy of Ethiopia. So the first assumption is to enable the current students in the high school to have the basic skill for ICT basic schools. And when they come to the high schools and technical and vocational education, they will learn more intensive skills so that our universities and technical and vocational school will produce users that are ready for the digital economy. The third one, which is the most challenging one, is to train or to give the right skill for users that are out of job and out of school. And there are various institutions working on that. For high school and kindergarten and middle school, it's a responsibility of Ministry of Education. So they are implementing the strategy through improving the curriculum. And also Ministry of Education also has, and universities has also a responsibility for implementing the digital skill map, which was designed last year by the current Ministry of Science and Higher Education. And the third strategy is focusing on out of school and out of job users, which is our ministry is mainly working on.
Well, since you mentioned the need of infrastructure, the growth of digital economy depends on the expansion of internet and its penetration as well. So in case of infrastructure, do we have the necessary infrastructures to initiate the digital economy?
The current infrastructure in Ethiopia is at very low level, but that doesn't mean that we cannot start digitizing the economy. So wherever or whatever the level of your digital infrastructure, you can start to implement the digital economy. But in general, when we think of the digital economy in certain countries, the first thing is infrastructure. That infrastructure is not only the internet, but it also includes the power infrastructure. Without power, it's almost impossible to have access to the internet. The second one is to place the enabling system. There are certain systems that must be present to initiate the digital economy. These are the digital ID, the digital payment, and the security. These are the 3 enablers of the digital economy. The other thing is we need to develop various types of platforms like the e-commerce platforms, e-government platforms. So all these things can be used if you have the right skill in the country. So developing a digital economy in a country includes both developing the infrastructure, the enabling system, the application, as well as having the right skill. But in Ethiopia, unfortunately, all these components are found in the low level. So our mission is to change the situation. So as I explained earlier, the government has enacted the communication proclamation, which liberalized the telecom sector. Now we have the second operator. Hopefully the third operator will come soon. So hopefully this will change the infrastructure landscape of Ethiopia. So in another engagement, now the national ID is under piloting stage, and the digital payment is, now we have a lot of directives and enabling environment for the digital payment. So, and also we have tried, and our schools, universities are trying to have the right skill, to provide the right skill for the professionals. So we can say that Ethiopia is in the right direction to build its digital economy.
The first one is that, as we know, when we are moving into the digital age, the networking security issue might be complicated to some people, as well as to either cyber attacks or some different things. So how much preparation has been made to secure our digital economy systems to make it safe from fake information or scam?
Security is one of the major components of the digital economy. Without having the right security, it's difficult to have a vibrant or a working digital economy. So whenever we think of a digital economy, we need to think of security all the time. So we can see the security in three levels. The first one is to have the right policies, regulations, and proclamation to devise a security which is working at the national level. The other one is the security at institutional level. All the institutions should have their own mechanism to protect their own security, their own digital security. And the third one is at individual level. So in Ethiopia, we have the Information Network Security Administration, which is our institutions with responsibility of protecting the economy as a whole. And every institutions, whether it is education or banking or any other institution, has the responsibility of protecting its own systems. And individually, every individual also has a responsibility to protect the systems it's working on. So now in Ethiopia, we have the security policies, the proclamations, and the working documents. But the problem, the challenge is that our security awareness in Ethiopia is still at very low level. So the more we build our digital economy, there is a possibility that the more attacks will come. So now the government is also seriously focusing on working on implementing the right policies and working environment to protect its own security as well as the security as a whole.
Viewers, thank you for watching. Still, we are discussing about the digital economy of Ethiopia, how it is being practiced, and how the other international partners will participate in Ethiopia. So stay with us. Welcome back. So, Doctor, since we talk about digital economy, there's countries that want to be involved or participate in our country relation. We can mention that we have a lot of relationship with other countries as well. So in case of digital technology, how does our digital diplomacy look like?
The digital diplomacy has two phases. The first one is doing the diplomacy itself using the digital technology. The other phase is to cooperate with international and with other countries on building the digital economy itself. In the first one, that is nowadays, the information flow is mainly managed or affected or enhanced by the social medias and other information systems. So these things has a real impact on the diplomacy itself. So nowadays, when we are thinking of the national diplomacy, we need to think of these things. Without using the right digital instruments, nowadays doing diplomacy is hardly possible. The other one is cooperating with others on the digital economy. As institutions, as a major implementing ministry, we are working and also plan to work with various international organizations as well as different countries. We are working with the World Bank, especially we have various big projects, including the Digital Foundation project, which is a 5-year project to improve infrastructure and the enabling environment. We are working with ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, on digital skills and improving the regulatory environment. We are also working with various departments of the United Nations. This international organization has their own interests, and also we have our own interests. So usually we cooperate in various activities, especially in building infrastructures, in developing an inclusive digital economy. We are also working with various countries like with China, Japan, with Korea, and also with other developing countries. We are also working with the African Union, especially as you know, Ethiopia is a signatory for African Free Continental Trade Agreement. The implementation of this agreement is mainly on digital infrastructure. That is, when we make trade free in Africa, that means you need to have the e-commerce platform and the necessary regulatory environment. So we are working with the African Union in many aspects, like on developing the platform and also in harmonizing the digital regulations. As you know, the digital economy is not confined to a certain place. When you think of a digital economy, you need to think of in terms of continent or in terms of the globe. So the regulations that you have here in the country has implication on other destination countries. So you need to harmonize your regulations. Like we are working on the personal development, personal data protections, e-transactions, and other types of proclamation. We need to harmonize these proclamations and regulation with neighboring countries or with the continent as well as with the world. So now to implement this one, we need to work with various institutions. So we are doing that now.
The next question should be the technology transfer. That's country to country, maybe institution to institutions as well. So what agreements that do you have with other countries? Like maybe a recent project or grant fund, and with who do you want to work consistently in the future? Like MasterCard foundations as one example that I explored. What agreements do you have, and with who do you want to work with in the future?
Yeah, we are open to work with anybody with the right mental sets and with the right resources. And we have a clear strategy, and if anybody who has the capacity or the willingness to support that strategy, we are willing to work. As you mentioned, we work with MasterCard Foundation, especially in building capacities for the private sector and also facilitating the digital transformation. We are also working with MasterCard corporations and also with many other international organizations. But the principle of working with the institution is based on our Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy. So whenever we approach different development partners, we approach to work on top of Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy.
There was a 10-year plan that was planned to digitalize Ethiopia. I read that document on Moshe. So how would the change affect the value of labor in the manufacturing sector? Because the conventional work that we do on the ground might be shifted into digital technology. So I think that might change, might have some effect on manual labor. So how would that change be?
Yeah, definitely there will be a change, not only in the manufacturing sector, at any types of job. It's almost impossible to participate in the labor market without the digital skill. And as you mentioned, especially the manufacturing sector will be changed fast. It's not that the jobs are eliminated, it is the jobs will be changed. So individuals should upgrade themselves. And it is one aspect of inclusivity. So the government, the civil society, and educational institutions has the responsibility to give the right skill to the youth. If the youth do not have the right skill, it's almost impossible or it's difficult for the youth to participate in the digital economy. Now the problem is at very minimum, but in the future the challenge will be great and it will become one of the societal problem.
Finalize, the last question that I wanted to ask is that what do you think the government should do to fasten this digital economy, so to ease things? Like right now, if you want to go to bank, there's a queue line, you want to line up and do things sometimes. So what do you think the government should do to fasten the digital economy for us?
To fasten the digital economy, the first thing is to expand the infrastructure. Access to infrastructure is very important, especially in Ethiopia, where most of the population is living in the rural areas. Access to the internet for the rural area is paramount. Without having access to the internet by the rural society, which is the majority of our society, it's difficult to achieve the objectives of the digital economy. The other thing that the government must do is to speed up the developing the regulatory mechanisms and also creating ways so that the society will take it seriously. The other thing is to provide incentive for the private sector. This is, at the end of the day, the digital economy is an economy based on the activities of the private sector. Without the active involvement of the private sector, it's almost impossible to build the digital economy. So the government should create mechanism, which actually the government is doing now. And also the private sector should cooperate and also should recognize the change that's coming. If the private sector do not recognize the change that's coming, sooner or later, the private sector will also be irrelevant to this economy. So it's not only the responsibility of the government, but it's our all collective responsibility. The government, the civil society, the private sector, and society as a whole has a responsibility, and they should make their efforts at their best.
Well, thank you, Doctor. It's all the question that I have.
Thank you very much.